Hey everybody, Tim here with today's review of Doctor Who story number 14, The Crusade. So this storyline is 4 episodes, so it's pretty short and it's okay. But 2 of them are missing, and it's every other one. So the first one's intact, the second one's missing, the third one's intact, and the fourth one's missing. I think. No, I'm sorry, the other way around. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyways, so for this one, like, as you can tell by the title, it takes place in, like, the 12th century or whatever, during the Third Crusade with King Richard. And so I thought it was a little bit funny that we see the TARDIS materialize and right away stuff just goes down instantly because they're basically in the middle of a battle and Barbara just gets kidnapped, which, to be honest with you, like, it is the 1960s, and so they don't quite know how to write, like, strong women characters, and that's part of the reason why Susan left, was, like, because she was always, like, her whole character was just to scream. And so I feel like at this point, Barbara just gets kidnapped a lot. And so right away, the first, like, 2 minutes of the episode, like, boom, she's kidnapped by the fake King Richard. Which Barbara, who's kind of a little bit of a historian, like, instantly points out, like, you don't fit his characteristics. And so it's kind of funny. In the meantime, we see the Doctor, Ian, and Victor, which they, because of the way women are perceived, they take Vicky and they dress her up as a ward of the Doctor. And they're like, oh, his voice just isn't broken yet. He's just a young boy. And so Vicky is now Victor for this episode. And they meet the actual King Richard, which, so at this point, like, I'm sure Doctor Who has had guest stars before that are relatively famous or well known for the time, but that doesn't mean, like, I know them, because, I mean, I'm looking at it from, like, 2019. This storyline is the first time that there's been a guest star that I'm familiar with. Julian Glover is in this episode as King Richard. Some people know him from Star Wars, some people know him from Indiana Jones, some people probably even know him from, like, Game of Thrones or Harry Potter. So that was kind of cool that he was in this, because at first I didn't quite recognize him because he's, like, super young. I mean, Star Wars or Indiana Jones is probably the first thing I saw him in, so this is way before that. So I was like, who is that? So I looked it up and I was like, oh, that's Julian Glover, that's pretty cool. So I like that. I thought that was pretty interesting. For the rest of the episode, it's pretty standard. It's a little flat for me, where we see, like, Ian is dubbed Sir Ian, where William Russell, like, years later, actually re-recorded some footage where he's telling this story in hindsight, and so he gives, like, a little summary before each episode, and he talks about, like, oh, I was dubbed like a knight, and blah, blah, blah. And then the episode goes into it and you see him get knighted. So he goes off to try to save Barbara. He gets captured and they, I forgot to write down the name of it, but they basically, like, chain him to the ground and cover him in honey to wait for ants to eat him. Of course he escapes, as it was pretty expected for him to do, saves Barbara, and everybody escapes just in the nick of time to get in the TARDIS and go away. So like I said, like, the acting is really good. For me, the writing for this episode it was a little drawn down for me. It was a little long and it was a little slow. I thought it was interesting to kind of see these different characters in these little dilemmas and the guest star and stuff like that. But, like, it never, like, really, like, kept me on the edge of my seat watching Barbara try to escape or watching Ian get knighted, stuff like that. I don't know. It didn't interest me the way that I think it probably should have. Again, maybe if all 4 episodes were intact, I would have been more invested, but it happens. So for those who have seen this one, what did you think about Julian Glover? What did you think about The Crusade? Go ahead, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for everything, and I will see you guys next time for the Space Museum.